All right, guys, welcome back to another voiceover breakdown. This time we are looking at some leg lock defense, particularly at a position called the saddle or the honey hole or the inside senkaku or cross ashi. There's a million names. And so I'm going to go over a fundamental escape that I first learned a long time ago, but it is by far the one that I use the most and have the most success with. Okay? So we'll look at the first slide here, and as always, recognizing the position you're in, especially in leg locks, is critical, okay? You need to know whether it's an inside heel hook, an outside heel hook, a knee bar, a toe hold, all that kind of stuff, because the defenses are going to be different, generally speaking, based on what your opponent is throwing at you. So in the saddle here, my opponent has a nice inside triangle wedged around my right leg, and you'll notice that I'm on my right side here. And this is really dangerous because it's a little hard to see, but my right heel is really exposed here, okay? When my opponent turns me onto the side like this, so that both feet of his are basically kind of right underneath my left hamstring, this is really dangerous, okay? I can't stay here too long because the problem with this position becomes much more complex when your opponent then gets control of your secondary leg, which is your left leg in this scenario, okay? So when I get here, I need to go quickly because I don't want to let him get what's called double trouble, which is control of both legs, okay? So what I basically need to do here is start to change the angle, okay? So what do I mean by that? Well, I need to get off of my right side so that I can hide my heel and turn the angle and start to tuck my heel and protect myself from a variety of leg locks, okay? So in order to accomplish this, what I look to do is, you'll notice right here, I'm going to freeze it. I'm posting on my opponent's knee here with my right hand. I go to sit up, and so I forced my opponent from his left side all the way to his right side, okay? This immediately is a much weaker attacking position for him, and it allows me to change my feet so that I can start to protect my legs, which we'll see in a different angle in a second. But as I sit up here, you'll notice that I do what I say is like a stiff arm, like in football. I'm driving my opponent's knees to the mat. So basically, I want to weaken this position by almost flattening his legs so that both knees are facing the wall or the black mats here in this case, okay? The reason I do that is because it starts to create separation from my opponent's leg on my hip, and it also starts to clear my knee line almost immediately, okay? It's not going to completely clear it, but it might get you a couple inches, which can be really valuable in heel hook and leg lock situations, okay? So you'll notice that I went from my right side to sitting up. My opponent went from his left side, and now he's all the way on his right side, okay? So changing the angle this way is super important, okay? The next thing I look to do here is something that I see a lot of people miss all the time, and that is clearing the hooks with the secondary leg, okay? So what do I mean by that? You'll notice right here, you can see my opponent has sort of his instep or his sort of shin underneath the hamstring of my left leg. Okay, if I don't clear this, it's going to make rotating out of this a nightmare. My opponent can also use that as a hook to pull me back in and rotate me all the way back to my right side, and now we're in the same position we started in, okay? So I need to be able to clear my legs so that I have good mobility. And so in order to do this, I'm going to post on my opponent's shin, which we'll see in a second, but I need to really dynamically clear my leg over those hooks, okay? So this does a couple things. Like I said, it prevents your opponent from sucking you back in and rotating you onto the side that he would prefer to be on. And it also starts to create a lot of distance between my left leg and his hands, okay? So in this situation here, it's really difficult for him to collect the secondary leg and start to get me into what's called double trouble, where he has both legs trapped, okay? So now I'm basically free in terms of one leg, and now I have to worry about getting my right leg out of danger, okay? So I've cleared the hooks here. The last piece here is what I do is I call it sort of a corkscrew. You'll notice I rotate to my right. So I'm doing sort of a rotation as I get out of this. But the key to this is that I rotate out and I rotate away, okay? And And what I mean by that is I don't want to just like sort of log roll in place, okay? I've seen people in ADCC get out of heel hooks by simply log rolling all the way out of bounds. And the problem with that is that you can't do that in all instances, and by simply log rolling, you're not really getting out of the submission, okay? Your opponent can follow you, he can roll with you, and then it becomes a race of whoever rolls faster generally wins, and that's not really optimal. So what I do is you'll notice that I rotate, but I also clear a lot of space. See how much farther I am from my opponent's hips now? And again, we'll get into that in a different angle in just a second. Okay, so we've rotated out and away, and now we'll get a chance to look at this from a better angle to see some footwork, okay? I'm slowing it down, and notice what I do there is, I say getting up using momentum. You'll see that I used my left leg there as like a pendulum, okay? So I sort of brought my left leg towards me, and then I sort of chopped down and forward, and that's gonna really help you get up. If you don't do that and you just try to sit up by almost doing a crunch, it's gonna be really difficult to just sit up, okay? So try to use that left leg like a pendulum. Give yourself a better chance to rock up. And the other thing I do here is, you'll notice that as I sit up, here you can get a better look at my right arm as I stiff arm my opponent's hips to the ground. Bang, right there. I'm just pausing it here because you'll notice a couple things happened. See, my opponent's knees have completely changed directions. He's now on his right arm, and he almost fell over there, okay? So I'm stiff arming and sitting up with force, okay? I need to change that angle, and you'll see that I've put him in a much weaker position here, okay? Are there things that he can do from here? Of course they are, but it's more difficult for him at this point. I can assure you that when people do this to me, it's frustrating because now I have to make all kinds of adjustments when I'm trying to heel hook you, okay? The other thing that I'm doing here, we'll get another angle here, is you'll notice what I'm doing here is this is where the footwork comes into play, okay? You can see my right leg here. I'm putting sort of the inside part of my foot, or I guess what you would call my instep, flat on the ground, okay? I'm also sort of doing a bit of a hamstring curl, and I'm trying to tuck my heel into sort of his rib cage. And what this does is it completely changes the angle, so now he can't just simply scoop my heel and start to attack the heel hook, okay? I've changed the angle, I've hidden my heel, it's tucked away, and the beauty of this is that changing the angle in this way also prevents the knee bar, and it also prevents the toe hold, okay? If I were to just leave my leg sort of dangling straight out, he'd be able to sort of dig my heel and get a bite on it, and then he could heel hook me. So when I keep my instep flat like this, it's really difficult for your partner to mount any offense without making some pretty significant adjustments here, okay? So you'll notice what I do here too with my right hand is as I look to clear my left leg over his hooks here, you'll notice it goes from his knee all the way down to his shin here, okay? And the reason I do that is because I want a bit of counter pressure as I look to sort of backstep my left leg over his hooks. If I didn't push down as I did this, it's still really easy for him to use his hooks to make my life miserable, okay? He could follow my left leg. He could start to, again, pull me back in and rotate me all the way to my right where I don't want to be. So by pushing down as I do this, it kind of limits his mobility and sort of nullifies his hooks, okay? So I'm forcing my hand down on his shin, and here I backstep. As I do this, I don't ever take that instep off the ground until I'm ready to start to corkscrew out and create space. You'll notice here that as I start to sort of corkscrew, my instep is still on the ground. I'm not giving my opponent any chance here to change the angle in his favor and get a bite on my heel, okay? Again, I'm not simply rotating in place. I'm basically diving forward as I do this. And you'll notice what I do too here is I do a full rotation, okay? So I say watch your back, because you can't sit in that sort of old school traditional sprinter position to get out of a heel hook and not expect to either get calf sliced or get your back taken, okay? So I don't ever like to turn my back to my opponent for very long, okay? I think that's really important. If you do and you just sort of do a half turn there, your opponent can follow you, you can get into sort of a dynamic scramble and they can take your back. And that's not what you want. So you'll notice that I do a full rotation so that when I'm finished, not only have I created distance between us, but I'm also facing him now, okay? And now I can sort of re-engage on my own terms, however I kind of see fit, okay? So that's basically a look at it, guys. Again, it's an escape that you're going to have to sort of reprogram your body's reactions and instincts a little bit, because what a lot of people tend to do in the saddle when they get stuck is they like to triangle their legs, okay, because they think it's going to protect them from a knee bar or a heel hook. And the problem with triangling your legs is that you're giving both your feet right to your opponent, okay? I mentioned earlier about this idea of double trouble where they capture both legs. And I love when people triangle their legs because they give me their feet and now they're in a deeper position, okay? So it's going to take time for you to get used to being in this position and sitting up and rotating your body away. It will probably feel unnatural when you first do it. It did for me, but after I've drilled it over and over again, it's just so fluid and natural at this point. When I use it now, I like to counter the saddle. So as you get more advanced, you don't necessarily have to rotate away as far. But if you're a beginner, it's good to just get the idea of get out of danger, get out of trouble, and re-engage on your own terms. But as you get more advanced, there are openings for counters and that's actually something I'm going to cover in next week's video. But for now, just work on hiding that heel. Don't get knee barred. Don't get toe holded. Don't get heel hooked. Get out of danger and start over and re-engage in a safer position. Okay, so I hope you liked the video, guys. As always, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. Please share it. If you enjoy these voiceover breakdowns, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. I'm always up for suggestions or new technique ideas. If you want to find me on Instagram, I've moved to @PFedBJJ. I used to be @PFedMusic, but I decided to change it since all I post is BJJ stuff now. So don't be confused. Same account, different name. Always up for hearing from you guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you very soon in another video.